Hello everyone, my name is Tyler Stuck and my research was over the visual behavior and performance of young drivers in construction zones and nighttime driving. My mentor was Dr. Li. Now what is the purpose of my research? The purpose of this research is to identify the effect of experience on drivers' visual behavior, and this was done by comparing the visual behavior of young and older drivers on a driving simulator. Now, why young drivers? I'm a young driver myself, and I wanted to see how they were represented in motor vehicle traffic incidents and accidents. And we transition to why this research is necessary. Teens are overrepresented in motor vehicle accidents, and the leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 15 and 24 from the years 1999 to 2019 have involved motor vehicle traffic in the United States. Now, young driver fatalities is not only a problem in the United States, but in other countries around the globe. The leading cause of death of children and young adults between the ages of 5 and 29 was from road traffic injuries. Now, what caused this accident? Lots of research has been done, but inexperience has been accepted as the leading cause for these motor vehicle accidents. Now, experience shapes multiple aspects of drivers' behavior, including their visual behavior. Now, effective visual behavior such as broad scanning ranges and frequent fixations can reduce the likelihood of getting into motor vehicle accidents. And understanding how experience influences visual behavior may provide a way to reduce the frequency of young drivers being involved in accidents. If we are able to provide better education or better skill sets so that young drivers are able to see risk, identify possible threats while driving, then the frequency of accidents would be greatly reduced. Now, what is the current state of visual behavior research? Despite the visual behavior of drivers being a frequently researched subject, a conclusion on how experience influences it has yet to be reached. For example, we have two conclusions which both contradict each other. Past research has determined that older, experienced drivers were able to recognize risk more accurately than younger, less experienced drivers. On the other hand, other researchers found through a meta-analysis that driving experience did not have a significant effect on the visual fixations, durations, vertical search spread, or the number of fixations. All these previously mentioned fixations and vertical search spread are measurements of visual behavior. Now we can move to what my research hopes to accomplish. This study attempts to put participants in realistic driving scenarios so that their visual behavior can accurately represent the behavior of drivers on the road. This will be done by comparing the visual behavior of younger, inexperienced drivers and older, experienced drivers in a driving simulator. Now we can begin to move into more detail on the experiment, specifically for this section, the methodology. And as we look towards the participants for the study fell into two distinct age groups. The young driver age group was made of 2 participants of age 18, while the older driver age group was formed of 2 participants older than 22. And the driving simulator was used in this experiment was the STESM Drive. The eye tracking devices used to measure the visual behavior were the Tobii Pro Glasses 2. Our independent variables. The between factor for our experiment were the 2 age groups, young and older drivers. The within factors were our 2 visibility conditions and 2 driving conditions. The 2 visibility conditions were daytime and nighttime driving, while the 2 driving conditions were free driving and construction zone driving. Our dependent variables were the number of fixations, the average fixation durations, heat map images, and gaze map images. All these were used to represent the visual behavior of the driving participants. The heat map images shows the concentration of where the driver's fixations appeared during each scenario, while the gaze images shows the actual movement of the driver's focus from one fixation to another. Before moving into the results, we need to first define fixation and fixation duration. Fixations are defined as the moments when the participant's gaze points remain stable for a minimum amount of time. For our experiment, it was 100 milliseconds. Now, fixation durations. Once a fixation occurs, the time while the participant maintained focus on the area of interest. Now that we've defined all of our variables, we can get into the actual experiment design. The participants will drive 4 scenarios in total: a daytime free driving scenario, daytime construction zone, nighttime free driving, and nighttime construction zone. While in the specific driving condition section, as mentioned in the figure on the right, the eye tracking software will be measuring the participants' visual behavior. The 0.5-mile warm-up section is where the participants will be introduced to the specific visibility condition of that scenario. Here's an image of our daytime free driving condition scenario on the Steeson driving simulator. This is a photo of our daytime construction zone condition, our nighttime free driving condition, and our nighttime construction zone condition. Now we move into the results section. This slide shows the daytime free driving results. In the following tables and graphs, we can see the number of fixations and average fixation duration between the 2 young drivers and the 2 older drivers. From both the graphs and the tables, we can clearly see that the older driver age group had more fixations than the younger driving age group, and also had a shorter average fixation duration than the younger age group. This observation was shared between each driving scenario, where the older drivers had greater number of fixations and shorter fixation durations across each scenario, as you can see from the daytime construction zone results, the nighttime free driving results, and nighttime construction zone results. Now, the results from the graphs and tables are further supported by the images shown from the gaze and heat maps. This slide shows the gaze map for young driver number 2 in the nighttime construction zone condition. This image shows that the young driver's fixations were only focused on the lead vehicle. Now, if we compare this image with the gaze map for the older driver, we can see that the fixations of the older drivers were not just focused on the leading vehicles, as was the younger driver. The spread of fixations was larger than that of the younger driver and included both the leading vehicle and oncoming traffic in the other lane. The 2 heat maps share a similar result as the 2 previous gaze maps. This slide shows young driver number 2's heat map for the nighttime free driving condition. The concentration of fixations was on a single location, which is where the leading vehicle would be. Now, if we compare this image with the heat map for older driver number 2, we can see that the concentration of fixations was not on a single point, but an entire area. Now finally, the conclusion. This section will basically be a summary of the previously mentioned results. The older driver age group had a greater number of fixations when compared to the younger driver age group. The older driver age group also had shorter fixation durations. The older driver age group's field of focus span a larger area, as demonstrated by both the gaze and heat maps when compared to the younger drivers. These factors indicate that the older driver age group had better visual behavior than the younger driver age group. This conclusion, however, cannot be used to represent the entire population, as a larger sample size is necessary to determine if there is a significant effect of experience on drivers' visual behavior. Now, my acknowledgments, I would like to thank the Office of Undergraduate Research for giving me this opportunity and for allowing me to present at Expo 2022. I would also like to thank Dr. Li and the other members of the Driving Behavior Research team for their help and guidance on this project.